Hey there, I'm G, and welcome to the next level, and it's time for a console consultation. But today, we're not going to talk about a home console, we're going to talk about an arcade one. This is the Arcade1UP 12-in-1 Atari 3/4 scale cabinet. Now I've been really curious about these Arcade1UP cabinets. I've been thinking about it for the last couple of months, and when I saw this one on sale on Black Friday for a really good price, I figured the 12-in-1 is probably the best one to get started with. So today, since I've had a lot of questions about it since buying one, we're going to take a look at the building of the Arcade1UP, take a look at the craftsmanship, the workmanship, the look and the feel of the controls, play some games, and then I'll give my final thoughts on whether or not it's worth owning. So, without further ado, let's do it to it. Putting together the Arcade1UP was super easy. It basically took me about 45 minutes to put it together on my own, though I probably would recommend a second person to help if you can. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver. The instructions are clear and easy to follow, so it's a breeze to assemble. If you like, there is a video on Arcade1UP's website as well. Basically, the main hardware of the 1UP unit is embedded within the LCD monitor, so be extra careful when you're handling that part. However, I will say through putting it together, you can tell how lightweight it is, so keep that in mind if you're looking to buy one of these. They aren't anywhere near as hefty as a full arcade cabinet. I built the riser as well, and it was also simple. That only took about 10 minutes. With it all built now, you can see how much 1UP went into detail into making this look like a nice replica of an arcade cabinet. The side designs are almost exactly like the arcade, one side being Centipede and the other side being Asteroids. You can tell that it's pretty much a sticker printed on top of particle board, but unless you're looking right up on it, you can hardly tell. And while the top panel art is nicely done, you can see a little bit of wrinkling in the sticker, or at least on my unit anyway. But again, as long as it doesn't deteriorate, I'm alright with it. Without the riser, the unit stands at about 46 inches tall, 19 inches wide, and 23 inches deep, and the riser adds another foot to it. My unit may have come with the riser, but I can definitely recommend it for those who are looking to pick one up, or you could make your own if you like. It makes the cabinet a near perfect height for sitting on a bar stool. There is an official Arcade1UP bar stool as well, that as far as I know only came with the now discontinued Costco 6-in-1 Asteroids Deluxe package, but it seems to only be tall enough for if you're not using the riser. I do absolutely love how the front base of the cabinet has all the game logos on it. All the Arcade1UP units have this, but on the 12-in-1 it just looks that much cooler to me. The actual arcade hardware is built into the LCD screen, which is a 17-inch screen and looks pretty clean. The colors seem accurate, though you can see a bit of light emitting from the corners, and the viewing angles can be a bit of a challenge if you're not looking close to the center. It's clean overall, but don't expect the vibrancy of an LED screen or anything. I've heard some people say that a more vibrant screen would take away from the old school feel, but I'll let you be the judge of that. The speaker sounds pretty clear and gets nice and loud. The volume switch on the top panel toggles between off, low, and high volume. However, I did notice a delay between your input and the sound, which is a little bit annoying, but not enough to be that much of a bother in games like these. Now let's talk about the control panel. You have 5 fire buttons, 3 on the left and 2 on the right, the trackball in the center, and the spinner wheel on the right, with the player 1 and 2 start buttons and the power and volume switches on the top. The player 1 start button also acts as a reset button if you hold it down for 5 seconds during gameplay, which will bring you back to the main menu. But for some reason on this cabinet, if you're playing Quantum, you have to hold down the player 2 start button to reset. It even comes with a little sticker for you to place on the cabinet as a reminder. That's odd. The panel's design is very cool, quite reminiscent of those classic cabinets, but as a forewarning, I have been seeing the art on their control panels deteriorate over time. This was taken at a Walmart near me of the display unit, and it's pretty gnarly. Thankfully, you can request a free plexiglass cover from 1UP. The fire buttons are responsive and feel just clicky enough, and that trackball is silky smooth. I can say I had no issues playing with the trackball, especially while playing Missile Command, which I'll get to that later. I know some people have reported that they've modded it to make them even better and more responsive, but I'll do that at a later time. But let's talk about what's possibly my biggest gripe with the cabinet, the spinner wheel. My favorite game on this cabinet has to be Tempest, so my main concern is that while the wheel seems responsive enough, this is where the control panel feels like they cheaped out. I feel like I'm gonna break it if I spin it too hard or too often enough. Turning to the right feels okay, but turning to the left I feel a bit of resistance. It tends to hiccup when I turn, and it's a bit concerning. I get it, it's a budget cabinet, but this is where they really should have improved on it more before release. Thankfully, there is an easy mod to this wheel I've seen on YouTube, and I'll definitely do that after this review, but overall, the control panel is solid. The main menu is very simplistic, as you use the trackball, or spinner, to choose between the games, and when you select the game, it tells you the controls before you start. Nothing to write home about, but it gets the job done. Now that we've taken a look at the assembly, design, and the controls for this Arcade1UP cabinet, let's play some games. And since there's only 12 of them, how about we play all of them? First up is Asteroids. One of the granddaddies of all vector arcade shooters, you pilot a ship, shoot asteroids and saucers while avoiding damage. You don't use the trackball or the spinner, but just the buttons to rotate left and right, thrust, shoot, and go into hyperspace, which will randomly teleport you across the field. To be honest, I've never really been great at Asteroids, but I've always enjoyed playing it. In any case, it's done quite well here. But how can you mess up Asteroids, really? Moving on to its sequel, Asteroids Deluxe, which I haven't played before getting this 1UP cabinet. It's pretty much just an upgrade of the original Asteroids, only with shields instead of hyperspace, some upgraded graphics, and new enemies such as the Super Satellite. That kind of reminds me of the pink shapes in Geometry Wars that multiply when you shoot them, don't they? But yeah, it's more Asteroids. The cabinet art was pretty cool though. Now for one of my all-time favorites, Centipede. You know the deal, control the guy with the trackball and shoot the centipede while avoiding spiders, fleas, and scorpions. Once again, the game looks and feels accurate and the trackball is on point. No input lag that I could catch, it's responsive and it feels just right. However, this is the game that I can really notice that sound delay that I was talking about. Give it a listen. Again, not a deal breaker, but it's still noticeable. And man, I love that iconic extra life sound. Warms the heart, doesn't it? Other than that, what more can I say? Centipede is a classic, and it's represented well here. And of course I have to follow it up with Millipede. It's basically more of the same as Centipede, but with a larger variety of enemies. Fun fact about me, I played Millipede in the arcade as a kid before I played Centipede, but for some reason as I got older, I could never get into Millipede as I did with Centipede. It just tends to be too much going on, and it just doesn't feel that much different than the original game for me. But just like Centipede, it looks and plays perfectly fine on the 1UP. One of the biggest reasons I wanted this cabinet specifically. I absolutely love Tempest. I can sit and play it for hours, even if I haven't always been the best at it. Even Tempest 2000 still kicks my butt years later. That being said, while the game looks accurate and plays okay, this is where that main detractor that I talked about is exposed the most, the spinner. It seems to play fine, but as I turn it in its original state, I feel like I'm going to break it with its plasticky jerky feel. Like I said, I am going to mod the wheel soon, but for now, it works okay, but they really shouldn't have cheaped out on that wheel. But it's not enough to make me stop playing, oh no, and I bet the average person probably won't notice as much. I love Tempest, it's a classic, and absolutely must be played if you buy one of these cabinets. You know what everybody, I got a confession to make. I've never actually played the arcade version of Missile Command. And I can say playing with a trackball instead of a joystick is way more enjoyable. It completely changes the game for me. And again, it shows just how responsive that trackball is. I still love this game after all these years, even if the game over screen gave me nightmares as a kid. Having a trackball gives me a newfound respect for Missile Command. I love it even more now, and here it's almost perfect. Now here's Liberator, which I had also never played before getting this cabinet, let alone even knowing that it's a spiritual successor to Missile Command. As part of the Atari Force, awesome name by the way, instead of defending 3 land bases from attack, you're defending 4 blaster turrets instead and shooting down bases on the Earth. It looks great for its time and it's pretty fun, but I think in the end, I still prefer Missile Command. I remember my sister loving Crystal Castles, but somehow I completely missed playing it when I was young. You control Bentley Bear with the trackball, and you collect all the gems on the stage while avoiding the bad guys and the bees. Always with the bees. All while on a trimetric perspective. You need to be aware of your surroundings for what can block your view of Bentley or can take you to other areas of the stage. No complaints from me here, aside from I'm just not all that great at the game, but it plays well and is really fun. To be honest, Lunar Lander is one Atari game that I could never really get into back in the day, and my opinion still hasn't really changed today. You're basically trying to make a proper landing on the moon by using gravity and fuel management to your advantage. I just couldn't grasp it as a kid, and today still, it just kind of bores me. But I know there are some major fans of Lunar Lander, and it plays perfectly fine on the 1UP. Speaking of Major Havoc is an odd one. This is another one that I never played, but I gotta tell you, it's quickly becoming one of my favorite games on the cabinet. You start off in a spaceship shooting stage, and then the game transforms into a side-scrolling action maze game, which the controls take a little bit of getting used to, especially when you jump. And you can go into warp zones, which control like you're playing a game of Breakout. It's so cool, and the graphics are really nice for its time, very ahead of its time. The issue with the plasticky spinner does come into effect here, but just like Tempest, you can actually use the right fire buttons to control as well. In any case, I really like this game, and it's such a shame I've missed it for all these years. On to Gravitar, another game that I had never played before getting this 1UP, and it's only included on the 12-in-1 package and the discontinued 6-in-1 Costco 1UP cabinet. It's a spiritual successor to Asteroids that plays similar but with much more color, and the action zooms in and out as you approach the planets to shoot the missiles down. It became more than just a single screen shooter for the time, which is really cool, even if I'm not a big fan of it. But again, it's a cool bonus game that fans of Asteroids would eat right up. And finally, we have Quantum, which is exclusive to the Arcade1UP 12-in-1 cabinet, and is one of the strangest yet oddly enticing vector arcade games I've played. You use your trackball to trace circles around particles for points, and if you circle multiple particles without bracing the trace line, you get more points. But be careful not to touch the other particles, or you're dead. And things can get real crazy once the difficulty ramps up. It's really, really cool. Kinda reminds me of Nights into Dreams and how you circle around enemies to defeat them, doesn't it? It certainly is a pretty game for a vector graphics game, and I'm digging it a lot. All in all, this is a superb lineup of games in this cabinet, and they all look accurate and play quite well. I gotta say, color me impressed. Ooh. So, that's the Arcade1UP 12-in-1 cabinet for you. So, what are my final thoughts on it? Overall, I think it's really cool. If you can actually get one for a great price like I did, I got mine for $349 on Black Friday, but I got a $105 credit, so at the end I wound up spending about $250 for it. For 12 games in one, I think it's a good deal. Now, here's the thing about Arcade1UP as a whole. So far, I'm pretty impressed by it, but you're really going to get what you pay for, guys. I mean, the thing is, if you're expecting a 1-to-1 scale of an arcade cabinet, or if you're more familiar with like the building and the care and the whatnots of an actual arcade cabinet, this probably isn't going to be for you. This is more for the people like me who just really want a good plug-and-play device that's simple and easy to use and simple to build, great to share with your kids. You know, as I've seen on the commercials for it, it's actually really cool to share with your kids, and I think it's a really nice machine. So overall, if you can get one for a good price, I think it's worth it. So what are your thoughts about the Arcade1UP cabinets? Do you have one? Have you thought about buying one? Talk to me, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, everybody, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep on gaming and keep being awesome. I'm G, and I'll see you on the next level.